All right. I am live. This is my live stream. I'm doing it at like midnight, which is insane. But such is comics. So I had a couple things I had to wrap up. I also took a very brief power nap after I got off work, where I work as a full-time art director. And what I'm going to be working on tonight is book 2 of this. 2 stories. Book 1, which came out this year, is a confessional graphic memoir that grapples with questions of faith, mental illness, depravity, and ultimately redemption in a fallen world. And that is my first book, which you can get online at pretty much any retailer online that sells comics. And you can also request it from your local comic shop, which I would recommend. Or if you want to save a ridiculous amount of money on it, it's on sale right now for like an absurd, almost like 70% off on Amazon. So with Prime and free shipping, like if you have Amazon Prime and free shipping, you'll be out like a little over a cup of coffee for a full 120-page graphic novel, which is pretty exciting. So what I'm going to be working on during this stream is finishing up the page that I started on the last stream. These are rough thumbnails. They're like a mix of thumbnails and rough pencils. And we're getting closer and closer to the end of the script for book 2, which is pretty exciting. So that's all I have left of the script, and then like about one more page. So we're getting close to having like one page left, which is pretty cool. Because that's about a third of the way through the work that I have to do for the book. Okay, so and Gary is here. Gary, if you want to hop on, feel free. No pressure though. Gary was on last night's live stream. And then Frank is here too. So Frank, if you guys want to hop on, just give me a yes in the chats, and I'll throw you a link. So yeah, so I think I'm gonna basically finish up this. Nocturnal Crew is on. Yeah, that's true. I think we're beyond Night Gang at this point. We're like the wee hours of the morning gang. So WHOM, the Weehom gang. And then Gary was saying he's doing laundry and bustling. I get it. I get it, dude. Anyhow, so like my goal is to do a fairly short stream tonight. I think hopefully an hour. I said that yesterday, but today my goal is just to finish this page. I can tell, like, it's weird as a creative, you can kind of tell when you're like writing a little close to potential burnout, and I can definitely tell that. So I don't want to push it too far tonight. I will invite Frank on too. So let me send a link. And then if you guys end up watching the stream and you want to come on, feel free to say something, and I will shoot you a link. Okay. So there we go. Frank, I sent the link through Facebook. Okay. So yeah, so what I'm going to do is basically what I'm trying to do here is work on page 128 and wrap this. And I'm kind of reflecting, not this page. Where was it? There's a layout that I'm reflecting from the earlier book. Not this page, this page, which is hidden behind all my rough pencils. But let me show you guys. So basically, a lot of what I'm trying to do is kind of reflect some of the layout of the earlier pages of the book, just so there's like this visual tie to kind of connect things. Oh, I should also mention another reason I'm slightly late is I did watch Loki, which is really good. And I'm not saying anything new on the internet. I feel like I'm like the anti-fan guy, because like I have a lot of friends who are uber geeks, and I get along with really well, and we tend to have similar taste. But a lot of them will get furious, like WandaVision. I remember like the first few episodes, a lot of my friends just absolutely hated. They felt like it was really slow, and I just enjoyed the whole thing. And I feel like maybe as I'm getting older, I'm just getting less picky, but I've been enjoying the shows. Oh, here's yeah, Frank just give oh, perfect. You give me a thumbs up. There we go. And Frank, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good.
Nice. Okay, and I'm gonna do this one. For some reason, that's a weird option.
I got this in
But
the mail today.
yeah, dude, Hobbs stuff is so good. Yeah. It's a good story too. It really is.
Yeah, and I got this earlier this week, but I was waiting for both of these to get here so I can do a video and take pictures.
Oh, dude, that's pretty exciting, man. Um, I am thinking about potentially I need to like get some books like put into like a pull box for myself because I don't my problem with doing comics is like I hardly read comics anymore.
Yeah.
Like mainstream ones, you know. But I heard the other day that they're relaunching Web of Spider-Man, so I was like I kind of should get in on that like when it
Oh,
starts. Because like that's the series I used to follow as a kid, like from Marvel. So it'd be interesting. I don't know. It'd just be interesting to see what all they're doing with it, you know.
oh,
Um,
cool.
but I also like yeah, I think that both of those are really good picks, man. That's cool. I saw your post on that too, Frank.
Yeah, the guy that did, Richard Dominguez, the guy that did El Gato, he when he created this actually takes place in my area.
Oh no way. Okay.
So when he created this, it was in the news. And so I remember in high school seeing that, but then what I saw was black and white. I didn't like black and white back then,
Yeah.
so I was like, nah, it's not for me.
Yeah,
And years later, I wanted to get it, and it was out of print. So he did a collection of the first four because it's gonna be a TV show. So
oh
like, oh,
sweet.
cool. I snatched it up.
That's badass. That's very
He,
cool. I didn't know that got greenlit too.
yeah, yeah, and he's actually from this area. So he
Oh,
knows
cool.
one of the big comic book shops here, and he saw my post because I tagged him, and he asked me if I could like show the book to him. So I just tagged him in a comment. So like,
That's
cool.
awesome, man. That's cool. I think it's always good to have like locals in your area that do art. Like the downside of living in the Antelope Valley is like I actually don't know a ton of cartoonists out here. I don't doubt that there are some, but like I need to like one of the nice things about kind of going out and being a little more active with like local comic shops is like hopefully I'll start finding you know if there are comic people in the AV like I mean so far I should mention them actually. So when I did a signing at the comic store here, I ended up meeting this guy who does a channel called Second Street Marvel. It's like super cool
Yeah,
and he's doing it out from here, like in Lancaster, and goes to bases all the time and does like pull box releases and stuff like that. So I feel like there is like a geek community out here. I just need to like be less like curmudgeon-y, which is hard for a cartoonist because I feel like our nature, um, for me, like my nature is to like be at home drawing, you know. So
yeah,
um, like the idea of like going out like meeting people and stuff is a relatively new one for me. Um, let's see here. So, what are you up to tonight, man? What are you working on?
right now, I'm gonna get back to inking the Texas Freeze story. I put that off. So like,
Y-
I better start inking some pages.
yeah, that's
And
the one I want to read, man.
yeah, and that's why like I gotta finish this so I can show it to to Josh. And I finished up these sketch cards I did of Captain Goggles and Masked Woman.
Nice.
So so this
That's
one I
cool.
made. I did them. I did the pencils on Medibang, and so I print them out as sketch cards. So I have uh like four sets of these, so like I can practice inking and coloring, and these I can just kind of give out. For,
Smart. Yeah. Like it doesn't hurt to it's actually pretty good to like if you're trying to practice inking, like print out like your own blue lines and stuff, because then you can like you don't have to worry about like, oh, I screwed up a line or something, like you can just
yeah,
toss it and move to the next one,
like I did
um
the.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool, Frank. Yeah, it's weird. I definitely am making some progress on this thing. I'm pretty excited because like I've been working at it for a while. So I also like realized today I need to talk to my literary agent and see if I can maybe start shipping, not shipping, shopping like my first graphic novel. Just because like in all likelihood, like I was kind of hoping ambitiously that I'd probably finish this in like a year. And I
Mhm.
mean, it's still slightly possible, but it's looking less and less likely. like, you know, so I'm thinking like in the interim, like it might be good to like have something to offer. And I'd actually like to just kind of give it to Marcosia, but like, even in that case, like I wouldn't feel right like doing it without, my agent or whatever, because like they got me the thing in the first place. So it's like I
Yeah,
don't want to be like pitching stuff behind their back.
yeah, like a jumping connection. That's what we call it here.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean it's like you can kind of technically do it, but it's a really quick way to burn bridges with like my wife and I had the same artist rep for years, like when we were early illustrators. And it was kind of the same way. Like if you had like um at the time, if you had like an illustration rep and they got you work, like you could still do work like that wasn't from your rep, but if it was
Mhm.
work that came from your rep, like to do work for that client was like super unethical and legally problematic, like
Yeah,
um but it's like it's also just the right thing to do. So I don't know. I need to like that's something actually I need to sorry, I'm like also kind of thinking through stuff I need to do, and that would be like one of the things that I need to do is like um ask about comic, because it is kind of a shame that I have like this like 6x9 like finished full color graphic novel that like is just sitting there. I feel like it should probably be out, like even if I can't get a publisher for it, like just put it out myself or something.
yeah. Did you ever find out why two stories is like so low?
I have no idea. Like I'm still baffled by it. So I
Yeah.
I figure I'll just, like my part is like promoting the book. I have no say in like what it's priced at. So um
Okay.
I mean, to me, I think it's kind of a good thing because it makes it accessible for people.
Okay.
Because I'm like, I don't know, man, like that, like, uh, if I can save somebody I know like some money, like I'm happy to, like I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I have no idea how they're costing, like, because I'm thinking for like a floppy, like that's almost cost, you know.
Yeah, because I
And
think
that's not me like doing a sales pitch. It's just weird. Like I don't
yeah,
understand how they're getting like how they're charging that.
yeah, it's like I think a floppy can go from $3 to $5.
Right?
So
So it's
so
like $1 more, like a little under $1 more than like a floppy. Like it's very strange. Maybe they see it as an end cap item. People will buy that and then buy other things to make more money on
maybe
the other things. Yeah, that's true. It could be like maybe my book is a loss leader for something else. But
hmm.
I have a feeling the pricing is probably Amazon, not the publisher. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so and from what I've read, I guess it doesn't really affect commissions, so it's just them messing with the algorithm and stuff.
Okay,
So
yeah. That's what I was wondering too. If you get like the exact same profit margins or not.
yeah, but but part of why I've been promoting it too, Gary was saying that too. Yeah, it's like a stupid value. Like, I totally agree. I think I'm trying to think of a time where I've gotten a decent graphic novel for $5, and I'm like, I can't. I literally can't remember a time a time where that's happened. So I'm pretty stoked about that. Like for other people, I think it's cool. If the algorithm or like Amazon like trying to kind of I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
whatever it is, it helps me promote my book.
Okay.
So that's good.
I wonder if there's a way we can kind of use that to help some of the other like creators, like Scott. Like if I bought two stories along with one of Scott's book, along with like I don't know, like some other creator book, and then like more people do it, and it'll be recommended. Like, oh, most people buy these these items together.
That's
Cause
totally true. What's cool so far that's been happening. So like a lot of like on the recommended bar under my stuff are a lot of Scott's books, which is kind of rad. I think that's pretty cool. I want to see that happen more with Ken Mora. Like he's a friend of mine who like
okay.
he did a book like this crazy historical fiction graphic novel about Caravaggio, and he did like all this crazy research on it, and it's like this insane story where it's like I had no idea before reading his comic that like Caravaggio used to get in like sword fights with people and like
Oh
he
wow.
was kind of like an angry like violent dude. um and he also like you know kind of got inquisitioned because he was gay at the time,
Okay.
and it was like you know in that day and age like that was like a killable offense. So it was like that. It's just this weird crazy like story, and it's super fascinating, and just like really intriguing, and just like an immense amount of research went into it. And so like I'm hoping to see that on there too. And I think it'll hopefully get there at some point. But like I feel like if anybody's buying anything else from Marcosia, it should be Ken Mora's book because it's so good, you know. And then of course
What's
Scott's
called?
books.
What's Ken's book?
Oh, it's Caravaggio, A Light Before the Darkness. And then like I've had trouble just kind of finding it in the search on Amazon. So what I usually do is just go to his Bella Fay comics on Facebook, or Bella Fay, I think it's Bella Fay Media. Hang on, let me see. I just looked at it today actually. Cuz he's going to be releasing a hardcover of it pretty soon,
Oh, okay.
which I think will be really cool. I hope I'm not dropping that before other people know. But let's see here. If so, he can let me know. But
Well, I'll check it out.
yeah, he's an interesting writer. And it's crazy. It's like, you know, full color, pretty cool graphic novel. But anyhow, yeah, I want to see more of that happening. Like it'd be funny if like somehow it was like Jim Luhan's like cartoons are like
Yeah.
on there too, and because he has a lot of cartoons on Amazon too. So
Okay.
oh,
Oh,
so
Jim, yeah.
Frank, did you watch Loki yet?
No, I don't have Disney Plus, but I've been hearing like that it's actually really good. So
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked on it. Like it was fun, and it's weird because like I'm not one of those people who like loves Loki as a character. Like, um, I mean, like I think I feel like I think my generation was a little too young for like Thor, because like I have older brothers who were like so obsessed with Thor, and for me I didn't get super interested in Thor like when I was a kid. And I acknowledge, by the way, that this is stupid, but when I was a kid, like if I got a Thor comic, I felt like gypped. I felt like I was getting ripped off because I was like, oh man, like I feel like I was in this like weird window, like right after Thor was like a huge thing. And then when the movie came out, I like loved the first one when a lot of people hated it because I like Kenneth Branagh and I really like Shakespearean like over the top stuff, and I just thought it was such a cool idea to like just go all out and be like, you know what, we're gonna do Thor, but like we're just gonna go full like just authentic like Shakespearean ridiculousness, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
And then the further movies, as it's gotten more and more absurd as a premise, I just really like it because I like as a kid and as an adult, I love Doctor Strange. Like Doctor Strange is such a great character. It's just like I don't know, like Steve Ditko was just going nuts with like the art, so it was just like art on acid, but Ditko wasn't on acid. All the writers were, but he wasn't. But the art just looks like this just insane, like trippy, awesome, like mind bending stuff. And then the films are so good too. So like what I love about where Thor's going now is it's like kind of borrowing a lot of what's great about Doctor Strange. Like not
yeah,
necessarily borrowing, but like just kind of pulling from that really fun like multiverse in a cool way kind of stuff, as opposed to like multiverse to bring back dead characters stuff. Um,
yeah,
and so I've been really enjoying that. But yeah, it's probably better to just not have any sort of uh, like media platform in the world. Like in reality, it's probably better to not be subscribed to Disney Plus. I think if I didn't have like my son, like like with his 7-year-old, it's like nice to have access to Disney Plus because like most of the films are moderately like okay for kids, like
yeah, yeah.
um but I think like if it weren't for I don't know though, I'm really interested in it, and Gary's got it dead on. Like I feel like working on their set design team would have been a dream. Yeah, and like the weird thing is it felt like Brazil. Like have you ever seen like the movie Brazil from like the 1980s?
Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah.
So it's like it felt like that, like a Terry Gilliam like film, like a lot of the set design and stuff, because it's like
Okay,
you're in like this office of this isn't too much of a spoiler because it's like within the first 5 minutes, but it's like
okay.
you're in the office of like the timekeepers, and the timekeepers are like this very strange sci-fi DMV.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I
And
saw a clip of that. I didn't know there were timekeepers, but I saw that looked interesting. So like
yeah,
I want to check it out, but I don't mind spoilers because I probably won't check it out till like later on.
yeah,
Maybe
I'm
next
I'm
month.
the same way. Yeah, I mean, I'm not the same way in the sense of like I don't like spoilers, but I'm the same way in the sense of like I tend to check things out like a lot later than most people. It took me forever to watch Winter Soldier because I never really, and this might be unpopular to say, but it's just like I never really liked the Winter Soldier character. um, I loved what they did with Captain America, like the first one, because it was like
Oh
okay,
yeah.
like as a film, because it was like they kind of harnessed what was great about that character and
Yeah.
took him back to like the Nazi punching years, which are like, how can you not like a superhero like punching out Nazis? Like that's awesome, like
Yeah. I like how they implemented Captain America punching out Hitler
yeah.
because there's like a stage show. Like, oh, that makes sense. Like,
But
and
a
the
nice
war bonds.
little reference to the actual
Yeah.
comic where Captain America, this is a spoiler for anybody who wasn't around in the 1940s, but Captain America literally did punch Hitler in comics. Just letting you guys know. If you're fans of Hitler, feel free to unsubscribe.
A
I,
big
I know
Hitler
that's a
fan.
hot take nowadays, but anyhow, But
Yeah.
yeah, but I thought that was cool, and like just the like Captain America is probably one of my favorite of the series too, because it's just like got a lot of
Mhm.
heart, and they played up the goodness of the character rather than kind of being like,
Yeah.
it's Captain America, but he's dark and he's full of darkness and hatred. It's like I I like that for like Batman.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you don't have to do that with every character. Like characters like Superman, like I don't know if we need to like make them all dark and crazy. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like was it a Man of Steel where it was like I liked it because like it had been a while since Superman, but like he kills Zod. like so it was kind of like okay, this is a little dark. So, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm weird when it comes to Superman because like I'm a Marvel kid, so I never really connected with a lot of DC characters. Like the DC characters I connected with were all on TV or on film. Like I never really read the comics. Um until much later. So for me, like a DC Vertigo, I was like all about DC
Mhm.
Vertigo, like which I'm really excited about. Like the Sandman, like I hope they don't botch it because it's one of my all time favorite comics. It's probably the comic of any comic. That comic probably got me into indie comics more than any other.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
because just the way Neil Gaiman wrote, and then you pick up other comics, and you're like, I don't know, this just isn't really that interesting, like, because he just kind of did this like cross-dimensional like genre thing where it's like, the Sandman exists in the same universe as like Batman, but like it gets into mythology and horror, and then like just slice of life, like Death: The High Cost of Living, which is like just a slice of life story about death about as a character, which is crazy to think. Like, I don't know. So anyhow, so that's my thing with DC, but like with Superman, like my connection was just like being a kid growing up in the 80s. It was Christopher Reeves,
Yeah.
and I loved those movies. Like like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I used to watch all of those movies
Oh yeah, me too.
like on repeat and wear Superman pajamas and stuff. So it's like that's the Superman I connect most with is like that one. Whereas I know there's like, different versions. And then I love the Fleischer cartoon
Yeah.
Superman too. Um, but yeah, I feel like Superman's at his best when he's like perfect. And so it was kind of neat because like Captain America is pretty much like a Superman-ish character where he's just like this good kind of person. He's not an alien, but it's like it was nice to see them just kind of lean into it and be like, no, no, no. What's great about this character is that he's like patriotic and like nice and kind to people and polite, and like
Yeah.
it's just I don't know. It was neat to see them just lean into that instead of being like, but he has a dark side, So yeah.
He has a
Anyhow,
secret.
yeah. What you don't know is he secretly kills people because he's bad.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I've actually tried to model myself or Captain Courage after Captain America and also the George Reeves Superman because I've been actually looking up uh, more videos and more info on George Reeves because
well,
that's
like,
one.
is that the black and white Superman,
Yeah, yeah, because that's what I
dude?
used to watch as a kid because we had Nick at Night. So
Dude, Nick
uh,
at Night was awesome. Yeah, that Superman's great. The sorry, Get Smart also.
yeah, Maxwell Smart, Get Smart.
I absolutely love that
Uh,
show. I Is there anywhere people can watch that now? Like Get Smart, or I bet on YouTube probably, huh?
I probably, I mean, you could probably like buy the series on YouTube, but I know at least when I still watch a lot of TV, I think TV Land would run a lot of those old those shows. I think Get
Yeah,
Smart was one of them.
There were
I'm
so
not
many
sure.
good.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's still like even going on. I think it might be. I'm not sure. But,
I love it. Gary was saying same. I really appreciated that he was sort of a moral center to everything, and then it proved it was doable regardless of what DC seems to think about Superman. Yeah,
yeah.
like I feel like they need to go back to that with Superman, and then just double down on Batman. Like Batman's awesome, dark. Although I have to say, like again, as a kid, I don't really read a lot of Batman comics. I watched reruns of the Batman TV show, which was like super, again, like very like moral and corny and hilarious. And I love that like tongue in cheek humor of it. I actually got that whole series, and my wife and I have been rewatching it, and like I hadn't remembered that that like characters like the Eggman, who's Vincent Price. I didn't know Vincent Price was in a Batman, you know. But I was like, this guy's amazing. He has an assistant named Florentine. It's like all egg puns, like the entire scripts, and I was just like, I feel like I want to go back in time and work in the writers' room for Batman the TV series. I don't know. So you model yourself kind of after him? Like, does he have a cool biography or something?
Well, it's kind of like it's a little like his real life is a little sad and dark, but when he was doing Superman, he wanted to be a good role model for kids, so he quit smoking. So so no kid would ever see him smoking because they would look up to Superman. So uh, like it was good that he went that extra mile to be a good example for kids. Not so much like not smoking as Superman, but just not smoking at all, so no one could like use that against them. Like, oh, like I want to be like Superman. Oh, Superman smokes, so I'm gonna smoke too, or something. So
no, that's a really good point. Because like I feel like when you get into doing children's entertainment, like there is kind of a responsibility, I think, of personality. Like, I remember reading about. Have you ever read about like the Steve from Blue's Clues? Like one of the main reasons he quit.
yeah,
It's
because
kind of awesome.
Yeah, he was starting to lose his hair, and he didn't want kids to see him aging on camera. So, like,
And I mean, I just think like, you know, that would be vain, I think, for like an adult actor who's like, you know, doing a sitcom for adults where they're like, oh, you know, I'm balding. I feel like this will, you know, kill the character or something. But in the sense of like children, like I actually think it was kind of a rad move, like on his part, to just kind of like be that considerate of like his fans and these kids, and like not wanting to weird them out or anything. And then you look at like Jim Henson too, and like how aware he was of like his influence on kids, or like Mr. Rogers, who I think is like the prime example of like doing that just awesomely.
yeah,
You know, because you know, my sons watched like I grew up seeing like Mr. Rogers and Sesame Street and stuff, and it's like, my son, you know, has watched Mr. Rogers episodes, especially when he was young, like really young, and it was like it was such a good show because you could put it on and have like no massive fear that there's going to be like some weird crap that like comes on that freaks them out or something. And yet it's also a show that talked really openly about like divorce, about racial politics, about like all sorts of like complex issues that were happening at the time. But just in a really responsible kind of, I don't know, like way where I think they were aware of the influence they had on people. That's something I kind of think about. Like if I ever did kids stuff for kids, I think I'd have to take up a little more responsibility on like my persona, like, you know, publicly. I don't know if that makes sense.
yeah. And that's something. Recently, I started to kind of just be more aware of, like, oh, like the way I portray myself on not on TV, but like on online or in person. Like I don't want someone seeing what I do and like, oh well, Frank did this, so I'm gonna do it too, uh, and like something negative. So like, and especially if when I'm wearing the Captain Courage emblem, like I don't want to bring like a tarnish that because of something like if I did something stupid or.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's a good way to look at it too. It's like you're kind of putting on a costume and a persona along with it, that comes with great power and great responsibility, Spider-Man style, bringing us full circle back to Web of Spider-Man. What were your comics as a kid? Like, what were the ones you really connected with?
Um, I didn't like. I didn't read like that many like comics off the rack just because like as a kid it wasn't something that we would just buy. That was like an extra expense that we didn't need. So, but I will get some free ones at school or I would find some. So I think that first like real comic that like mainstream comic was a Spider-Man comic, but it was like one for school where like it was teaching about not smoking. Like
Oh, nice.
there was a kid or a teenager that his mom had died of cancer from smoking cigarettes, or his mom or his dad, but um, so he had like this vendetta against like smoking and cigarettes that he was just angry at those companies. And Spider-Man, I think a Human Torch was in it too. That they were like kind of like helping him to like they're helping him with stuff. So like it always that always stuck with me. So like I didn't want to smoke because of that. And then later on when I was like
That's
a
cool. That
teenager,
stuff, like, for me, worked oppositely. Like, as a kid, when I'd see stuff like that, I'd be like, I need to smoke because this just sounds like propaganda, which is weird. But it's like part of why I think I had a lot of failures as a kid because it's like I've always been that personality that I'm like, why can't I do that? Like, and then instantly needs to explore that and then find out for myself the hard way. So I
yeah,
guess like if any like biblical figure applied, I'd be like definitely prodigal son kind of scenario where like I have to like go out, blow my fortune, like, and screw up pretty bad and then realize like, wait, this was a really big mistake. Um but as a young man, I think I'm a little better at it now as an adult. But what's funny is we have a commonality there because like one of the comics that got me into comics, and I'm talking like floppy comics. Of course, I read like Calvin and Hobbes and
yeah,
like Peanuts collections and stuff. Although I will say, for people who like say that comics are in this like rut, like this bad period of time, I don't know if they're aware. Like, do you guys look at the old collections of Peanuts and then look now at these beautiful, comprehensive collections that Fantagraphics has been releasing where you can see like a full year or two or like a whole decade of Charles Schultz's work without it being like terribly marketed with like a bad cover and like
yeah,
I'm just saying we are in a golden age for like reprints and collections of art where that was like really hard to find. And so like the Peanuts collections that I grew up reading were just like these weird kind of like best of type collections. Same with Calvin and Hobbes, honestly. Calvin and Hobbes, you'd have things like uh I'm gonna forget what it was called, but it was like something like Sunday Funnies or um anyhow, there were a couple like different collections of Calvin and Hobbes. Weirdos from Another Planet. I remember that one. It's the first one I bought from like a Scholastic catalog. And they were great, but they didn't give you like now it's like you have that Barnes and Noble collection that's like everything, like every single strip. So like I guess what I'm getting at is like that's kind of a cool part of comics now. And that was me rambling from the idea of So but like so I had read comics like that, but my first introduction to like legit comics was going into a library because I like was obsessed with books because I grew up like my mom was like an English teacher, and so I was like really fascinated with books. And I go to this library and they give kids this like comic called Spider-Man Adventures in Reading, which had the goal of like trying to tell kids like, hey, you like comic books, kids, but like comic books can lead you to reading these great, wonderful literary works. And it's a wonderful comic. I still have it and I wouldn't sell it. Like I would not sell that comic for like, if somebody offered me like a crap load of money for that comic, I would never sell that comic because it's a comic that got me into like comics,
Yeah.
But it's like it was just a free giveaway, and it had the reverse effect on me. Instead of getting me into reading books, I went from reading books to just like obsessively reading comics because it just like was so cool to see. Like even as a kid, I think I knew it was kind of like not necessarily greatly written or anything like that, but it was like the combination, something about the combination of like words and pictures in such a like flowing way was just intriguing, it was cool. So I remember from that going to like spinner racks, and I think I grabbed the first Spider-Man that was there because I was like, I like this Spider-Man character, like I want to read more. And at the time they didn't have like a lot of cartoons or anything. Again, like generation gap. I feel like I was in that little like the little tiny window between generations that had a lot of good Spider-Man content. But I do remember, like, I went to, like, a 7-Eleven, and I'm like, hey, there's Spider-Man, because, like, I might have been the last generation that had spinner racks, like, but it's like, yeah, they used to have spinner racks at, like, AM PMs, and so I remember getting that and then being like, I want to know what happens, and I forget it was, like, issue 40 or 10, or I can't remember the issue number, but I remember thinking, like, well, I want to get the next issue, and going back to 7-Eleven, it was like, they didn't have that issue, and gradually like picking up other stuff like X-Men. This looks cool, like, and falling down that rabbit hole, but all because of that free giveaway. So that's my really long rambly way of saying like I relate to what you're talking about. So that got you into like that helped you not smoke. That's good. You're a good kid for not doing that. I wish that it helped me not
later
smoke.
on when I was a teenager, but I didn't really like it. I only smoked it just like to be like with my friends, but like I didn't really. It's not something I really kept up with. But yeah, like
That's a wonderful thing. I'm the I feel like an anomaly here too because like you know those stories where they tell like kids like or they talk about like, so then my dad sat me down with like a carton of cigarettes and made me smoke through the entire carton, and I was so sick I never wanted to smoke again, right?
yeah.
I'm the weird kid who, if that had happened, I would have smoked the entire carton and been like, this is pretty awesome. Like, I don't know why, but I think different people like kind of connect to different things and have trouble moderating. For some people it might be like alcohol, for some people it might be overeating, for some people it might be like nicotine, whatever it is, it kind of like digs its claws in, and it's hard. It's like even Paul talks about it in the Bible, right? Where he talks about the flesh and the inability to kind of like get rid of the desires of the flesh, even though the mind, like the mind and heart are like turned, like he was frustrated with like this constant desire to like feed the flesh, you know.
Yeah.
Um so like to me I think there's something to that. Like I think there's different things for each person, but for me it was definitely like smoking was definitely one of those things. Whereas like alcohol, I can tomorrow I could quit drinking alcohol for like 3 years and be fine. Um, Tomorrow, if I had to cut nicotine entirely, I would be like, I would be a mess. And I did quit pretty effectively for like 5 months before the pandemic, and then I let the pandemic be an excuse.
Okay, because I remember that was when around the time that I started watching the 48-hour art check. Um, because I think I went on one of the uh those episodes
Oh,
because
okay.
I think Corey had thrown down a link because I think you were talking about addictions and overcoming things, and so I went on and I talked about how I lost weight because I had I was diagnosed with diabetes, so I lost weight because I didn't wanna like have diabetes. Uh, so I went on and talked about that. So I remember uh, uh, that you were talking about quitting smoking too. So
Yeah, and like I mean I did quit smoking, I guess like cigarettes, but the vaping thing was like the last kind of straw, and I had effectively quit it, and I kind of let the stress of the pandemic year kind of reintroduce that beast of a thing.
uh,
But it's definitely not something I would recommend for people, you know. I don't beat myself up too much about it in the sense of like I said, like, you know, and this is not a justification. I know it's an issue, but it's like, you know, Paul had his things.
yeah.
But it is definitely one of those weird things where I feel like there's different things for different people. But anyhow, again, I think I mentioned this on Facebook. I have a tendency to ramble, and that was my way of saying, yeah, I wish I had listened to that comic. um, it's funny how like truisms when you're young feel like really phony, you know.
Hmm.
And then you get older and you're like, oh, okay, that actually wasn't like unwise, you know, what was being suggested there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true.
So okay. So then you have that. What got you into comics then? Like what got you into comics beyond that?
Um, I think like gradually, like I was able to like find comics here and there. Another comic that I remember, I think it was like a giveaway. So I think my mom found it or gave it to me, but I think it was a Dennis the Menace comic, and it was talking about uh the Bible. So it was teaching a Bible story to kids, and it had the story of uh Joseph and the coat color. So I remember that, and then just wanting to know more about the Bible, so so, so comics kept me pretty much on a narrow path for a while, not smoking and getting wanting to know more about Jesus, and then
Huh.
later I just as I found out more comics, like okay, like I think it was at a convenience store because I remember they used to be like everywhere on those racks, so I would read them there. And then one day I just asked my mom, "Can you buy me this one?" So I was like, and it's a
Is it
comic I can't even find anymore. I can't even find people even mentioning it, but it was about some kid named Ralph. But I remember that was a special edition that was in 3D, so I bought that one because I thought like, oh, this is cool.
Wait,
So,
what
so I
was
was
the
looking.
title? Like it was about a kid named Ralph.
Yeah, so I'm trying to remember what the title was, but it was like this like troublemaker kid. Uh, It was kind of like Dennis the Menace, but like a little bit more troublesome.
Huh.
Uh, and I remember there was an ad for Married with Children in there. So it was so I can't remember how old I was. So I was probably a little bit older than I think it might have been fifth grade or sixth grade.
So okay, so I'm feeling like we probably got into floppies around the same time because, like, like Calvin and Hobbes thing was like easily like way before like fifth grade, probably like second grade or something. Um, but I do feel like it was about fifth and sixth grade where I got like really into comics. And I kind of feel like we're probably around the same generation
I think we
and
are.
age range because I do think we're kind of like the last stand for the spinner racks. Like,
Yeah.
Because I remember also the weird thing was after spinner racks, like I remember there was like a read more gifts or read more books, which was like a whole chain of bookstores that had comics in it. Like, and it was like one of the first times I just thought it was the coolest thing because it was like, this is a bookstore and they have comics. Like, what is going on here? Yeah. So Gary was asking about what age are you guys? Are you asking our porn name, Gary?
Yeah,
I
I
saw
saw.
I saw on Facebook. I think that's pretty hilarious. So like, there's these memes on like Facebook, where it's like, your porn name is like your street address from when you were a kid, and like it. Anyhow, usually it's like a mixture of like two security questions that would be on your credit card or like, and so it's
Yeah.
like, yeah. Um, but anyhow, so I don't know, Frank. How I don't actually know if I know your age, Frank. I think we're about the same age, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I'm 42. My birthday is coming up in next week.
I love it. I'm 41, so I was
Okay.
right. Like, we're about the same.
Okay.
Yeah, about the same. And then he was asking for your specific birth date and last four digits of your social security number.
Oh, okay, Gary.
Yeah. Which is a totally normal question to ask in a chat. I also like
I'll
think
show you
along
my
with the.
ID. You want my social?
Oh, I would not. But I was gonna say, I think that Gary brings up a very valid point, though. Like, that's a very valid message in a chat, much like the messages I keep getting from these people who want to make us famous. If you just subscribe to their thing and buy followers, like, it'll make you really famous. I don't know if you've heard of that, but I keep getting messages from Twitch to that effect, and I got to reach out to them, the Nigerian prince who keeps emailing me, all of these really substantial people. I don't know. Okay, so Spinner Rack, you get into this comic about Ralph. I want to see this comic now. Have you searched for it to like try to find out like what it was? Like, what was it called?
I feel like if I just look up Ralph comic, I'm not sure what I'll get. But
Well, it's Google, so there'll be something dark.
yeah. Yeah, but I remember like it was that one, and so I thought they were all
Wait.
like
So was
that.
it? It wasn't Ralph Wiggum, like from.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't Simpsons.
Okay, so curious. It wasn't Wreck-It Ralph. Ralph Snart Adventures?
Maybe what?
Wait. Was this like? It almost looks like Sergio Aragones in style. Wait. This is crazy. Was it called
Do you have a
Ralph
picture?
Snart? Here. This dude? Can you see that on the screen? Here, let me blow it up. Oh,
Yeah,
I don't know. This looks pretty rad. This looks like I mean, I don't think that's Sergio Aragones, but it sure as hell looks like his style a little bit.
you know what? Yeah,
Ralph
that's
Snart.
Ralph Snart. Yeah,
Okay, dude, this is really cool. I've never heard of this comic. This is one of the great things about like live streaming and online communities is like when would I have heard of Ralph Snart?
yeah. I remember like it was like that's the only time I ever heard of it or seen it, and I think like I was reading some of the other issues, but like I never bought anymore just because like I was limited on what I could buy.
Dude, so you started in comics like really into indie because this was it says
I didn't even know.
yeah, so it was published by wow, that's crazy. So this was definitely an
Oh.
indie comic.
Yeah,
What the
it
heck?
wasn't one of the mainstreams. I remember that it was something
And it's
else.
black and white on the interior. Wow, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
and then the issue I got, I'm gonna have to look it up see if I can find it. It was a 3D issue, and it was teaching you how to use a 3D glass.
Oh, dude, Gary was saying first exposure to comic books was my dad got me a set of illustrated classics,
So,
and I think they were by Marvel, but not 100%. Probably the classics illustrated by Marvel are just they're excellent books. Like, I was at a comic shop like a couple days ago,
mhm.
like maybe about a week ago, and they had like a whole a whole set of back issues of the classics illustrated by Marvel, and I was like, how did these comics like not just explode people's brains? Like they're so good. like, um, yeah, yeah. And then actually, to be fair, my half brothers, did have Star Wars comics and Donald Duck. So before that Spider-Man one, I did get to kind of sneak peeks at their Star Wars comics, like the Marvel run from like the late 70s and early 80s, and then also Uncle Scrooge, which is just
Okay.
classic. So, but I have never heard of Ralph Snart. Now I want to check it out.
And I want to look it up see if I can find some old issues.
Yeah, I want to. I like this is one of the problems with my brain is like I hear something cool like that and I want to just go on a deep dive down a wormhole of just
Yeah,
tons of information.
yeah. Also, I would find chick tracks, so I thought that free comics, so I would read those.
Nice. I like chick tracks. I mean, I like them because they're kind of crazy. but
Yeah.
we've talked about this, but it's like I always feel like they're so heavy-handed. It's like when you see a preacher who's preaching and they're preaching for the already converted. I don't know if
Yeah.
that makes sense. Like I've seen this guy at Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, back when I used to go, um, who would stand on the street corner and just yell at people saying they were going to go to hell. And he was kind of a dick. Like he was just not a nice guy to people. I don't see that guy making a lot of converts. Like maybe, but it just and I know everybody's got their own style and stuff like that. But yeah, Gary's got a good point where he was saying I used to love getting a chick tract. I mean, I found them appalling, but I really enjoyed them. Yeah, there's like something aesthetically really great about
Hmm.
them. Like he did have his own style to it. I rarely met somebody who was like converted by that. However, I'm not gonna like throw that out of possibility, but and I would love to collect them weirdly enough because they're
Yeah.
just it's there's another style of like weird quirky comic called the Tijuana Bible. Have you ever heard of those?
I've heard uh like I know what they are, and I I think if it's what I'm thinking of, we have something like that here in the. I don't see them here anymore, but when I was a kid,
I mean, they weren't Bibles, is all I'm saying. like
yeah, no, they
they
weren't
were kind of
Bibles.
opposite from that.
They were like at least the ones I would find because they were kind of like romance novels, but in comic form, and
Yes,
they were in
yeah,
black and white, and they
yeah,
were called in Spanish like novelitas.
yep.
So so I would see them all the time. So those were one of the ones that I would read. So I would read like a whole bunch of stuff. If I found my hands on it and it looked cool, I would read it. So there were some that were like a little bit more adult. So,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And
mm,
usually like a lot of them, but there's like an art to them too, where it's like a lot of them would use properties like completely like illegally, right? Like where it's like,
yeah, yeah.
you know, you'd have like Archie comics, but it's like a spinoff. Um, but very similar to Chick Tracks, where like they have this like, there's like a kitsch value to it,
Hmm.
but um, but I do feel like I, I don't know. Like to me it's like and this is just a weird thing, but it's like as a believer I feel like the Paul approach is the best approach for evangelism, like,
Yeah.
and I don't really see like what Jack Chick was doing is like a Mars Hill approach, where it's like you're kind of like approaching Greeks and Romans, and you're kind of reasoning with them and talking
Yeah.
about the reason for the hope that's within you, which is the whole origin of apologetics. Um, Instead, it's like it's kind of like more just like I don't like I didn't even see like oh sorry excuse me I didn't even see like Christ like you know when he like talked to the woman at the well, I didn't see him like go up to her and be like you're going to hell like you know like I think he more like found a point of desire in a person who was seeking something,
Yeah. Yeah.
um and sort of just was like, hey, you know, I have this living water that would fill your thirst or whatever. And to me, it's like just as a believer or whatever, I feel like that's much more effective
Hmm.
than like just kind of bashing people. But I will
Yeah.
say there's like a creepy, amazing quality to what Jack Chick was doing. And I don't know, maybe he saved people. I don't know, because people did give out those pamphlets,
Hmm.
but I do have a feeling like some people might have been giving out those pamphlets more for themselves than like for the for I don't know if that makes sense. Cuz like it
It does,
okay,
yeah.
so a time in my life where I got the most Chick tracks was when I was in rock bands and we play like punk shows. There was always like some guy who'd show up who was like handing out Chick tracks that were like, if you go to a rock show, you're going to do drugs. And if you do drugs, then you're going to worship
Exactly.
Satan. And then if you worship Satan, like the next thing you know, you're in hell. And it's like, this is amazing, but like, really? Like, you know, um, um, I always felt like that person was handing that out for themselves rather than for like people going to a rock show, you know, who like, I think, I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense. Sorry, that was a long, rambly thing about Jack Chick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a the I didn't read them all, but like the ones that I would read as a kid, and there's some that kind of did stick with me. And there's one I think it gets memed a lot. This is your life. So I remember reading that in junior high, and it was like I think it was about this guy that he was like, oh, like I'm a good guy, and I was like, oh, I'm a good kid. So I was like, wait, this guy went to hell, like. So like, but there was some that would read later on. They were like we're saying very heavy handed.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can see why people don't like me. So yeah,
Ye- Yeah, and I always feel like if hell were, I don't know. I feel like I almost think about it like sales. Like it um if you want long-term buy-in, you don't do high pressure sales, you know?
yeah,
And like um and also if you want like and this is my own theory on it, like, and I really want to be clear, like I don't really judge anyone kind of doing good work, right? Whatever you're doing, cool. Everybody's got different things, different callings. Um but to me it definitely feels like I'm trying to even think of a way to articulate it. I guess it just feels like if you're doing heavy-handed sales, you're going to have short-term customers.
Yeah.
Like if I go to a car dealership and they shove a car down my throat because I need this car, I have to buy this car. Like if I don't get this car, like everything's going to explode. If I don't buy this life insurance, like my life is going to, like I'm going to lose my life tomorrow and my kid's going to not be provided for. Like I'm just bringing up like hardcore, like
Hmm.
high pressure sales tactics. And the problem with that is like, you will get buy-in on the short term, but for the long term, you don't get anyone. Like
Yeah.
nobody feels good walking out of a car dealer buying a car they didn't feel ready to buy. Like and nobody feels good being swindled, right? So it's like um the high pressure thing, I feel like it's just I don't know. For me, I think it's the wrong approach for
Yeah.
myself, right?
Yeah. No,
Um
no, I agree. Like,
yeah. Yeah, I think you do agree, right? Because I don't see you putting that in your own content, where it's like I haven't
no.
seen Captain Goggles be like, "Hey kids, you're all going to hell and listening to devil music," and you're like, "Wait, what? Like what is going on here, Captain Goggles?" I thought you anyhow. Um,
Yeah, like
so
I have a Captain Courage, and this is the one that I say can kind of be like a chick trick. Um, and I've actually been told that like, oh, like I had this one, and someone said, oh, I thought that was a chick track. Like, no, it's not a chick track. It has nothing to do with anything. But like this one, is just talking about the armor of God. So it's Captain Courage, uh, uh, and each piece of his armor relates to the armor of God. So there's the one I could kind of see that it kind of could kind of be called a chick track, and then I have him punching out a guy. So, so
yeah, yeah, I don't
but
know. I mean,
but it's not meant to be like heavy handed, or it's just kind of like,
yeah,
and it
like
did,
from that, I don't get the sense that like you're gonna put on like a record that opens a portal to hell that's gonna allow demons to infest your life, and
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like there's a line. And I also feel like there is something remarkably 80s about it. Like Gary brought up just about every track I ever saw was so extreme it was laughable and immediately dismissible, which at your point, Josh, seems contrary to what you think the point was. Yeah, I totally agree. However, I don't know, man, like maybe he changed minds. I just like
I don't know, maybe.
and like I'm not gonna judge, but I always feel like I don't know. Like I want to model.
I think if anything, he got you thinking, or even
Yeah,
talking about it, because we're still talking about it now, and he's long gone.
yeah. I mean, part of why I talk about it is like I've met a lot of indie cartoonists who like literally collect chick tracks because they're fascinating and
Mhm.
disturbing and weird. you
Yeah,
know, um, because he'd go like really hardcore.
yeah,
Um, but also like there's a part of that I don't know. It's weird, but there's like a politically charged part of Christianity that I feel like isn't really Christianity. It's like more of like a co-opted thing from like the 80s.
yeah,
Um, that's really disturbing and weird. I don't know how to uh, parse that. Like personally, I think you could be like a person who's not a fan of Ronald Reagan and also believes very firmly and strongly in Jesus. Like I don't know if that
yeah,
makes sense. Not and vice versa. Like I think you could actually be a fan of Ronald Reagan and very much believe in what Christ did. I have one about D&D somewhere because I liked it so much. A girl gets way into it and then goes to hell.
I,
Yeah,
I've heard of that one. I think there was a movie that they made it based on that chick track, and they made it as ridiculous as the chick track sounds. So
I have to say, actually, Gary, Frank, you and I, all three of us should. When Gary, when you're done with Dinosaurs versus Mars bots,
We should do
We
Chick
should
Tract.
just authentically do like a satanic panic book where it's like maybe the beginning of our story could be like a kid puts on a Led Zeppelin record and plays it backwards. And like it could just start there and be like, and then they suddenly start getting like role playing and like Magic the Gathering and all these dark evil forces. I don't know. I'm just saying, throwing it out there is something we should consider.
Uh,
Yes, we should make a satanic panic comic. Come on, guys. It'll be fun. Kidding.
into Kemble tracks.
We could call them chic tracts. They're very chic. I don't know. But I also feel bad because I don't want to seem like, I mean, I think the guy, like, and I think this is the thing that appeals to, like, so Gary, you're in? Okay, cool. We gotta, just for the hell of it, make some crazy satanic panic stuff. But I do think I think it would be hilarious and awesome.
I think instead of like I might just use it like a different card game like Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon.
Oh, see, that's good though, because it could be we could make it even more absurd where it's like Pokemon and the evil like Pokemon. Okay, I'm trying to think of like a satanic panic angle to this. Pokemon is evil because it brings in elementalism,
Okay.
which is pagan, right?
Yeah.
So when you're, you think Pikachu's all cute and stuff, but really, when you're buying like a Pikachu card, you're really just like going back to like Norse mythology and paganism and worshiping elements, which really just ties into Hinduism and Satanism. See, I don't know. I'm trying. I'm reaching here.
I have an image for a panel, and it's Satan like kind of like yes like.
Oh, I love it! Like the behold.
And he said, yeah, and he's saying, "Gotta snatch them all, the souls."
Yes, he's got to catch them all. Oh my gosh, he's collecting Pokemon cards of the kids who are getting into Pokemon souls.
Oh,
Gary, are we crazy? Are we on to something here?
Are trapped in cards, so he's collecting.
Yes, I think we're into something. I don't know. What do you think, Gary? Do you think we're onto something? Could we make comics about Pokemon raising satanic children? I don't know. It's a thought. Anyhow, I love that you riffed with me on that. Let's see. I remember in Catholic school in the 80s. Oh, Catholic school. See, so the weird thing is I grew up in like a religious school too. And I think that does lead to a lot of aversion to like things like chick tracts and stuff like that. And Gary, having been raised in Catholic school, I've heard bad things, but I don't know if your experience was bad. I'm imagining probably not so great because I've heard tales, dark tales of Catholic schools. Dark tales. Anyhow. Yeah, I feel bad though. I feel like I'm kind of talking crap about things that some of them are good in intent. I just think like maybe misguided. I don't know. Yeah. I do like our Pokemon concept, Frank. We need to revisit this. You could even have like a version of Pikachu, right? But it's like Pikachu with like little horns. And it's like because he's really like he's peeking at you. That's why they call him Pikachu, right? Like you could riff on this. Do you feel like this is maybe how it started? Was like two guys just joking around, like being like, I don't know, you can make that evil somehow. What's weird to me with the whole aversion to fantasy, is like, okay, so like the forefather of like most modern fantasy fiction it is J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah.
It's like hardcore religious, like believed in Jesus and all of it. Like used fantasy as like an analogy to like reflect like Christianity, you know. C.S. Lewis, another guy, helped start the whole fantasy thing. How did it go from that to just like this is some dark thing that's gonna like destroy people's souls? You know, it's strange.
Sure.
Anyhow,
I do remember like news articles and I think like a lot of it comes from someone taking it to the next level. Because I remember I think there was like some vampire game where some kid that was like dysfunctional, he used it to kind of like escape, but he ended up like killing people. But he used the vampire role playing game, as like that was his persona. So I think some taking it to the next level, and then people say, "Oh well, that this is gonna happen to everyone." So like,
yeah, yeah, it's a weird one, but it is cool. And sorry for again rambling about like chick tracks and stuff. Like, I actually think he'd be a fascinating dude to like meet because I'm sure he had like some kind of impact on people, you know?
yeah,
I'm just, I guess my question, like my own question to myself is like, how lasting was that impact? You know? I don't know. But also, honestly, you find a way to do art in whatever way you find it. That's good. Um, uh, Gary was saying in Catholic school in the 80s, every other thing was satanic or witchcraft. Okay, so in Christian school, it was always oh my goodness, I'm blanking out on what they called it. They have like terms for I'm secular. Secular was the term. So secular was like anything not Christian, which is weird because I know people I've met people who work in like Christian writing and stuff like that, and I'd say the division isn't that clear. Like, you know, you have a lot of people who are writing for Christian publishers who aren't Christians, and you have a lot of people who are writing for quote unquote secular publishers that are Christians. So like how do you parse that like if you're a Christian bookstore, you know? Because like not everything in the Christian bookstore is safe. Like I don't know, the idea of creating a bubble, I don't know, it's a strange thing. But I also see a purpose for it because like you know, and I think Frank will agree with me on this, but it's like there are things that like Frank's a Christian, I'm a Christian. It's like there are things we believe that like not everybody's going to be on board with in broader society. So that like I have a friend named Alan Noble who's an excellent writer, and he writes like really heavy theology books. Is that for a general market? Probably not. Like most people, your average Joe is not necessarily going to care about like how to rectify like pop cultural analysis with the Old and New Testament, like taking it very literally and thinking like that's a guideline for your life, right? So in that case, like a Christian publisher kind of makes sense, like to the extent like you know what I mean, like that makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
But I think like a lot of the time, like if it's like quote unquote Christian music and it's like not really, I don't know, it's like a rap band that's like Christian, like in quotes. I wouldn't trust that as much. So I feel like there's arbitrary kind of weird things. Gary was saying, I'm not the person to comment on it, but I'm not sure you can scare someone into salvation. Yeah, I never really believed in like the Pascal's wager kind of vibe, where it's like, well, what do you have to lose? Like, well, I don't know if that's belief, you know. Um, but again, like, you know, I tend to, I think there are different techniques for different people, you know. I don't know if
Yeah,
that makes sense.
and I think with like the fear, like scaring someone into it. It might work when you're younger, or it might work temporarily. But there's gonna be like a backlash when like you get older, and like you'll rebel from it. If it's not genuine, you're just doing it out of fear, then it's not genuine.
Yeah, and like decisions, yeah, faith at gunpoint. Yeah, decisions made out of fear. I don't know. I wouldn't encourage people to do that at all. Like with anything. I actually would say, you know, um truth uh tends to push away fear. And so if you hear something like overly harping on fear, like maybe it's not super connected to truth, you know? I don't know if
Yeah,
that makes sense. Um
yeah, yeah. Even the Bible says like fear is not. It's not a good thing. So like,
Yeah, like not to worry about tomorrow because today has enough problems of its own, and like
yeah,
you know, that like come unto me and I'll give you rest. Like, is that
yeah.
restful? Like, I don't know if that makes sense. It's like it's
There,
a yeah,
there's
and
the
again, the woman
fear
at
the
the
fear
well,
of
like
God, but not like
yeah,
terrifying.
yeah, you should have a healthy fear of God. Like, I think anyone who actually believes there is a literal person who made the entire universe, right? Like that's legitimately something you probably should be slightly fearful of.
Yeah,
Um, just like if you're exiting the Earth and you're maybe gonna go to like the moon or something, like you might want to be a little fearful of that process because you're starting to enter out of territory you're comfortable in. Like
yeah,
this is not your world. Like, um, but like I said, for me, like for my own thing, is like I feel like the way that Christ dealt with the woman at the well, where he just spoke to her need and
hmm
just kind of spoke truth. Um, at no point was he just like, "You are a horrible, horrible human being," you know,
yeah, yeah,
like, um, and then also Paul. Like I know there's different tactics and stuff, but like for myself, like those are the guys that I always kind of keep in mind. So
yeah.
yeah,
You can't go wrong from Jesus.
yeah. And Paul's pretty amazing, man. Like I just reread Romans the other day, and I always feel like it's funny because Paul. Anytime I take a break from reading Paul, I feel like he's super legalistic and kind of difficult and hard to parse. Um, but then when I reread it, it's like, you know, every time I come back to it, I'm like, it's actually like really not legalistic. Like it's very
Yeah,
like accepting of the fact that like as human beings we're flawed, you know?
yeah, yeah. I think when Paul was Saul, he was legalistic because
Yeah. And
he
he
was
talks about that.
yeah, and he because he was killing Christians because they didn't meet up to his standards of Christianity.
Yeah, and what's weird is like to me it's just weird to see people kind of taking those same tactics cuz I'm like we're not supposed to be like the Pharisees or whatever.
Yeah,
Very strange when like that starts being the face, you know. Anyhow, totally rambly. I hope this is interesting to other people. Frank and I are believers, so I think it's fascinating to us, but
yeah,
I do hope we're not boring the pants out of you guys.
yeah.
Um,
And that is a something that I've talked about with Anna, and because we have similar faiths too, beliefs too. So Like, do we want to be Christian comic creators, or is it, or am I already a Christian comic creator because I'm a Christian and I'm creating comics? Do I need to be putting? Do I need to be writing sermons in comic form for it to be like good? Uh, so like, no, I just, we want to tell stories, and if they have a good message, if there's like something people can relate to, I think that's good.
You
Like
know,
Captain Courage is faith based, but it's not like, not every other page is a sermon. Not every other page is he's fighting demons. Sometimes he's fighting bad guys, and sometimes there's like a dilemma, and he uses his faith, or you know it's real world stuff. Like
yeah, I never felt like from your minis or whatever, like I never got the vibe like it was like saying that like, if I listen to like a Slayer album, I'm going to hell.
yeah. Well, that's the next issue of Captain Goggles.
Please do that and make me the character that listens to the Slayer album. But because I would be stoked about that. I would love to be a character in a chick tract that's like depicted in a negative light. But uh yeah, I think there's multiple approaches, but I always felt like, and I think we've had this conversation, but I always felt like Sunny Day Real Estate had it right. And if you haven't heard Sunny Day Real Estate, you should look them up. Cause like, have you heard the Foo Fighters?
Yeah, I've heard the Foo Fighters.
Okay, so like half the members are like poached from Sunny Day Real Estate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like so Sunny Day Real Estate was like this band on Sub Pop that kind of like in the early 90s like sort of defined like this bizarre genre that was like kind of moving from like post-hardcore to this thing called emo, and they sort of kind of created that whole, like helped create that whole movement. And then Jeremy Enoch, like the creator of it, like was like a hardcore Christian and wrote like extremely religious lyrics and stuff. And it's super fascinating because it's like they were good enough to like be, inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They didn't have to like be like, oh, we're a Christian band, I don't know.
Yeah.
Not that Sunny Day was inducted, but I'm just saying like half the members like just got inducted this year for Foo Fighters. So it's like, so I guess what I'm saying is like, I'd rather take that approach. Like if it's coming to like, I think at the end of the day, we just need to tell good stories. And I think we need to tell truth. And then like Paul says, you just give a reason for the hope that you have. And that's apologetics. Apologetics doesn't mean like arguing with people,
Oh, okay.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not like starting fights all the time.
Yeah, because it's like you're not gonna logic, even Paul says like, it's gonna sound like it's gonna sound stupid
Yeah.
to people who don't believe it. So but yeah, you got to give people a reason for the hope that's within you, like that's it. So if I'm like, Frank, like you've gone through hard times, like what gave you hope? There's your in,
Yeah.
But like other than that, like you just tell truth, because truth isn't going to negate truth. So I feel like if you're true, and this is, by the way, I'm not necessarily saying this is how everybody should work. This is my thinking on it. But it's like, I feel like if you're true, it's inevitably going to lead to, truth. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like not a lot of people are going to look at like a Thomas Kincaid painting, who was like, I think he was religious, but it's like, I don't think people are going to look at a Thomas Kincaid and be like, I need to go to church.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe I'm wrong. I have weird views on this stuff. Okay. So we've been going for over an hour. I'm going to take like a 10-second break.
Okay.
I appreciate the conversation and also you putting up with my rambliness. I think I tend to be very rambly.
No problem.
I hop topics a lot.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons I sincerely actually, like come Monday, I have like my first assessment test for autism, because that's a very autistic trait, is like the idea of like this kind of bouncy, super crazy kind of bouncing around to different topics in conversation. That's a part of it. So I appreciate you bearing with me, Frank. And Gary was saying I worry too much about being rambly, and that is true too. I totally do. But it is a fun kind of. I also like that sort of format. So I will be shortly back. Frank, why don't you let people know where they can check out your stuff and all that fun stuff? And
Sure.
also, I really do think Gary, Frank, and like, I don't know, I'm going to be wrapping this in about a year. So we should really touch base and try to do this like Pokemon thing. It's going to happen.
Pokemon Trick Tracks.
I don't know. I just think like a parody would be good. It would be fun. Anyhow, all right. Go ahead and pitch your stuff. Where can people find your work and all that fun stuff? Oh, and right. While you're at it, also tell people where they can buy Dinosaurs versus Mars bots for Gary, because it's a good comic. All right. I'll see you guys in a second.
Well, you want to get a comic about dinosaurs and Mars bots? You can go to Gary Hodges' Instagram, Dinosaurs vs. Mars bots. There is a link to his Etsy store and to all his stuff. So check it out. Pick up your copies. Pick up issue 1 and issue 2. And this cover is going to go out of print soon. So pick it up before it disappears. And you can find my stuff on Salazar Art Nation. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram, and there's links in all my stuff, or you can find all my other social medias. I also have a Ko-fi account, so if you want to support what I do, you can check that out. All right. Hey, just in time. I just finished wrapping up.
All right, cool.
And you can find this on Amazon for $6 and just a few cents.
One of the cool things about you, Frank, though, is that like, I don't know, you've talked about I see, now I'm curious, because like you've talked about sort of like projecting an image that like reflects like kindness and that kind of thing, and like I've never gotten the vibe from you that you're like a negative person or anything. You're a guy with a sense of humor for sure, but I've never gotten like any sort of vibe that you were like, I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, like I used to be kind of negative, and sometimes when I do joke, and if people don't understand how I joke, they can kind of perceive it as being negative. So,
yeah, I guess, I don't know. I always dug your humor, so I want you to know that I don't view your humor as like some dark thing or anything.
I can be dark sometimes because I joke. I can joke about. I openly talk about things that I've gone through, and some things I've gone through are dark. So sometimes it can come off as I'm kind of mocking it. But just
yeah.
But like I tell people like, no, like, well, I've gone through depression, like, so I can laugh at it. I rather laugh at it than just kind of let it get to me.
Yeah, for sure. It's weird. Yeah. Gary's got this dead on. He said Frank comes across as a vicious, explosive, violent, and cruel man. No, not at all. Explosively. Thank you, Gary, for chiming in on that. No, like that's the last impression I've gotten from you, dude. So
Well, I'm glad.
yeah, yeah.
We you mentioned the Sunday funnies a while ago, and I had done some comic strips that I wasn't sure like where to put them, so I just kind of collected them and I printed this out. So I call it Salazar Funnies, and I just put some of my strips here.
Oh, nice. Like one panels or
Yeah, like one panels, uh, and like a couple of strips. So like I didn't really know like where to put these. Like, oh, I can just put them uh on a sheet and make them look like if it's like a newspaper.
I love it. I had looked into this a long time ago, but you can do like newsprint runs
Hmm.
for like a reasonable price, like on a newspaper size thing.
Oh, cool.
Because like when I was initially, so with two stories, like originally I was thinking of syndicating it, like, like at 32 pages because, and this was like a similar reason for like Scott, like what he said for like putting out Young and Dead for like as he's going, because it's like, it's a beast to get these things done and to wait for like hundreds of pages to
Yeah.
put out your work is just, it's tough. So originally like, like two stories was like done in like like the idea of like formatting it for like three separate issues. And
Okay.
then
Yeah.
originally like when I had those done, I was like, I'm gonna just kickstart and do like the floppies. But then I thought about it and I realized I don't buy floppies a lot. A lot of people don't buy floppies. Like you'd rather
Yeah.
wait for the trade. And then just like on a logistical standpoint, like doing a floppy, if you're gonna, let's say you have a booth that's like $300 or whatever, like booth at, how many floppies do you have to sell to like make table? But if you have like a trade, like you're not going to have as hard of a time like making table and still pushing your book without having like ancillary items like um you know prints and like stuff like that that's like higher priced where you can make back your thing. So and anyhow, that and like multiple reasons, like the fact that I realized like I really did want to do a graphic novel, so it just didn't make
Mhm.
sense. But I will say through that whole process, like I did notice that like newsprint is possible, and at some point in my life I would like to put out like some stuff that's like it's like a strip but it's like a newspaper, like a
Yeah.
full newspaper format, because it's not bad. I mean, you can do like crazy huge print runs for like a really low cost you know
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
um so anyhow, if you're considering that, like that might be worth looking into. You could actually do like a legit newsprint comic you know
I like start a legit newspaper.
That'd be amazing.
I have a newsprint paper that I bought. So sometimes I'll print some of these minis in newsprint,
That's
but
awesome.
yeah, I don't want to do all of them because like I don't want to like run out of the paper yet because I also don't know how like if a lot of people would like those. Sometimes I just give these out to kids and they're gonna tear it in in minutes if they get a newsprint.
Oh yeah,
So
that's 100% true. Like I do envy doing all ages stuff too, because like when I did that comic book signing, one of the most awkward things in the world is when like a 7-year-old's picking up my comic. I'm like, this is not for you, kid. Like, and they're like, well, can I have anything? And I'm like, I'm looking at my, excuse me.
like here's $1. You can go get something from it.
Yeah, I'm like looking at my postcard, like, is this something I can give to you without like implanting some weird, crazy idea? Like, it's definitely not for kids, you know. And the weird thing is, when I was doing that comic book signing, like, I told the parents, I was like, hey, like, just as a heads up, like, I love kids. I have a 7-year-old, you know, like, they're awesome, but this is not for kids. And they just were like, uh-huh. And then they turned their back, and their kids are still looking at my booth. I'm like, and I love engaging kids because it's awesome. Kids are
Yeah,
amazing. And I'm like, you want me to draw something? Like, I'll draw something for you, but like, there's literally nothing on this table that I want you to walk away with, because
yeah.
like, you know, like, it's not. And I'm talking like kids, you know, like 5, 6, like that kind of thing. It's like,
Oh
I don't
yeah,
want I want little tiny kids like reading a story about like suicidal ideation and like
yeah, yeah,
heavy, you know, adult crap. Like, you know, I wouldn't even have my son read my book, you know, so
yeah.
until he's
Like,
older, you know.
like I had done this one, and we've talked about before the one that's based on the John Denver lyrics for Your Tomorrow, and
Oh, the
inside is
tree? Yeah, I wouldn't have
three
a kid read
people
that.
like, and I made this, and like I printed a couple copies. Like, I would never give these out like I can't give these out to anyone because most of my audience or most of my friends are from church. So like okay, I'll just print out a couple and like see like someone like Gary or you like here like you can have this if you want, but I wouldn't know how to market this. I think I put it up on Gumroad, just and it's like free. You can have for free, and someone paid me for one. So like, oh, okay, I can't collect the money because it was only $1, and you gotta have like a certain amount. But like, all right, I mean, I guess that's something. But I was like, aside from that, like, I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, it's a weird thing with like uh, so Gary was saying at cons I usually keep buttons with my early cartoony dinosaurs versus Mars but stuff to give to kids. Yeah. I had ordered, like, so my comic alternates from like two styles, as you guys know, and it's like the one of the styles is like more of like a Sunday funnies kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing, and there's like a cartoon version of me when I was
Yeah,
a kid. And so I
yeah,
made
yeah.
these little stickers that are just like a big happy cartoony face of that kid that just have my website. Well, it's like, okay, that I could give away. The downside is like I didn't get those until after the signing. So I was like, okay, next time I will give those like crazy to kids because they're stickers and they're fun and it gives them something. Because I know how my son feels. Like, if my son goes to like a thing and he like wants something, it's like I'm gonna want him to be able to, like, I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah,
Yeah.
it is a weird thing to navigate. So like I do feel like if whatever project I work on after this ends up being all ages, like I wouldn't mind that part of it because kids are awesome, you know, and like they're really eager for really good content. And I mean, they're also like, I mean, man, they like when my son gets into something, he gets into it. Like, he's pretending to be the characters and like running
Mhm.
around the house, like getting in big epic battles with people and stuff. It's like
Yeah.
it's a different level of like imaginary engagement with creative work. And so it's like to be able to tap into that and you know, make stuff that's kid friendly is um a cool thing for sure. I just, if I do it, I know it has to be authentic, you know, when I do it. I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. Like l- like except for like the tree comic, like all my comics, everything that I make, anyone can see them, anyone can read them, whether they're an adult or kids. Uh, and like going back to like do I make Christian comics? Like as long as it's a good story, like and not even has to have a direct message, but it's not like promoting drugs or something, but like it's something like I think like I'll give these to my own kids and I'll give these to other kids.
Yeah.
Uh, like the this one like Captain Courage, I made it to give out to kids at church, so it is geared more towards uh either believers or just kids that kind of want to learn about the Bible. Because this one just literally just Bible scriptures, and I did get a critique from a little girl, and so I made a change because in my and I talked about it with Gary when he was on in the after show. Like here, this one like I just wanted like Captain Chris to do something cool, so he's off fighting and fights a bad guy, but there's no narrative to why he's doing this, so it just looks like he just randomly punched some guy. Uh,
I think
uh,
randomly punching a guy though is a pretty awesome plot device.
yeah, so a little girl was reading it, and her dad was telling me like, yeah, it was good, and like she liked it, but then all of a sudden she's like, Dad, why is Captain Courage punching a guy? What like what did he do? It's like, oh, okay. So I went back and like I know there's scripture about fighting your adversaries. So like, okay, let me look something up, and I found something. So I added this. I added Psalms 18:39 versus
Nice. I was gonna say, like, if you're talking like fighting adversaries, you want to go with like David stuff, because it's like
yeah
those are great too, especially if you work in environments where you have to like get political sometimes.
yeah
Like David's great. Try and randomly punch a guy at least once a week, says Corey Kerr, who just showed up. How you doing, man? How's your music video coming? Corey is on like the music video that will never die. Although it's really cool music video. I'm just summarizing, I think, where he's at on that. But yeah, I random punching, I try to really, limit that to like I like that's a good workout. So like when I need to, work out, I'll just randomly punch people. Yeah, for sure. It's
all right. So I'm looking
good
at
for
my
your heart.
phone. My phone is about to die. I think I might be overworking it, so it's on 2%. So if I
If you
go off,
cut,
yeah.
I love it. I hope it's at like a point where it just seems like you got so infuriated you left. Just because that would be interesting. But no, that's pretty cool though. Like I like that. Corey said he's taking the night off and drawing a crazy thing. I wonder what you're drawing. Describe the crazy thing, Corey. Don't be so spoilery about it. I just watched Loki today, and there've been all these little spoilery things, and finally got to get over that. Don't re-Loki the environment, Corey. By the way, did you see Loki yet, Corey? I'm curious. And also, Gary, have you seen Loki as well? Because I'm curious what your guys' thoughts were. Wait, Gary did mention that he'd seen it, and he agreed with the whole idea of it being kind of like a Brazil.
That's right.
Yeah. So what are you working on now?
Right now I think I'm doing page 4 of the Texas Freeze. So
Yes.
I was looking at my file and I saw that I already had page 3 done. I just needed like one little thing like, oh, okay, so page 3 is done. Now I'm starting page 4. So um, I'm on this page. This one. No,
Nice.
this one. So,
I'm really excited about this Texas Freeze story because I'm
yeah.
like
Most of it's gonna be in text form. Like some of the conversations.
Yeah, I get really curious about like just interesting stories like that, where it's like, how did you, I don't know, like survival stories are good. An astronaut in a Lolita dress with a skull head swimming through space like a squid. Is this going to be an animation?
Is this a chic track?
Yeah, is this a chick track? Corey, are you going to be using that, like the Lolita dress? Is that what happens when the actress like put on like a Led Zeppelin record? I'm curious. But no, like I really appreciate that there I appreciate that there are intelligent people out there like not necessarily like not necessarily having to go the chick track route and also still be able to like talk about their faith and make stuff that's for all ages and stuff. I think that's cool, Frank. Because yeah, there needs to be more comics out there. And at the end of the day, we got to make good stories. That's kind of the key. And say something of truth. And I think whatever is true is going to transcend, you know?
Yeah, sure. Like the Captain Goggles and Masked Woman, like that's like on an alternate world, and there's like fantastical elements. So I mean, I probably won't put in scripture or anything, but there's like there's gonna be like it's gonna be a good story, and from what me and Anna are talking about, like we're gonna have this villain. He's gonna have a redemption arc, and then there's gonna be another villain that is gonna have that chance, but he might turn down that redemption. So there's parallels to the Bible, but it's not directly like bashing you over the head or
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fine line to dance with that kind of stuff, you know? Like honestly, it can be that way with anything that's trying to teach like some kind of moral lesson.
On the head.
I love I kind of want like, so do you still have a version that's like just him randomly punching someone? Because I think that's really funny.
Yeah. Like I have a few of them. Like this one doesn't have the scripture.
Oh, cool.
So I do have the other one.
I want that.
I'll send you that one, and I still have the original file. Like if you want, I'll send you that one. I'll send you the
I like the idea of like, okay, so we got to keep.
This is one of the scripture.
Okay. Okay, Gary, and Frank, we have to keep this in mind for what in our future when we make this hypothetical. And now I'm bringing Corey in on this action too. Right, but I'm just saying, when we make this hypothetical crazy comic, I want, after the whole Pokemon fiasco, where you realize that, and I like your twist on it, Frank, where the devil is collecting them all. We'll take that idea of like punching someone, but just make it like 10 people, like just random, and make it totally random without any verses. It's just random people just getting punched, just like, I think we can make a really cool thing, and at the same time like riff on ourselves as well, right? Because like, I mean, obviously, like, I'm a believer, Frank's a believer, Corey is a believer, so it's like, you know what I mean? Like, it's
I'm a believer.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, where did you see her face? What is by the way, wasn't that song written by Neil Diamond? Am I wrong? I'm a believer. Now I got to look that up.
I think so, because I know the Monkees didn't write that song, but they popularized it. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure who sang it.
Yep. Yes, I knew it. It is Neil Diamond. Okay, cool. Neil Diamond wrote like half the really good Monkees songs, and that was one of them.
Okay, yeah.
But the cool thing about that song is the very Neil Diamond-ish, like, but doot 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 doot, like on the organ.
Yeah,
it's just pretty amazing. It's almost like a twist on the joke about youth pastors saying things like, you know who else created a market? You know who else tried to collect them all? Satan. That could be literally the dialogue, Gary, that we're going to do. I think we got to do this. I don't know. Like, I'm looking for a project when I'm done with 2 stories. Yeah. Not sure what I'll jump on, but that might be fun. Maybe we can make it a mini I don't know. What do you guys
Yeah.
think? We could do the long width one too, so it really looks.
Like a chick track.
Yeah.
Oh, wonder.
Would that be like heretical though? Because like I wouldn't want it to seem like we're like
That
trashing the dude. I
maybe
just
that I don't know, because I know some churches don't like the Pokemon, and so I don't know.
yeah. I don't know, man, but I do think it would be
I
fun.
mean, my kids like Pokemon. I think there's a balance.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I think people kind of miss the fact that like Satan isn't a god in the Bible.
Yeah.
And he's not really a threat to God, like biblically. Like it's not like the devil's gonna win. And I think people can forget that sometimes. Like they can kind of forget that you're actually fairly protected as a believer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I don't know what the whole I don't know. It's a weird thing. It's kind of like the thing where I remember growing up in the church, and this is just random thing, but it's like I remember people saying like something like Satan was really tempting me the other day. And I would just think about it and I'd be like theologically that just doesn't make any sense. Like
Yeah.
cuz the devil in the Bible can't be more than one place at one time. Like it's not like he's not a god. Like you know what I mean? Like he's an angel who thought he was a god, and like that's kind of the hubris of the whole character. Like he's not he's definitely a threat to human
Yeah.
beings, but he's not like a threat to believers. And it's not like he's able to like tap on the shoulder of like Frank tomorrow and be like, hey Frank, you should do this horrible thing. Because that a lot of that is taken care of by like human nature itself, because we're like
Yeah.
born in opposition to God. So it's like it, you know, even Paul doesn't describe it as like the devil was like really messing with me. He talks about it as the flesh, right? Because it's like
Yeah.
the basis of like original sin. So like the weird obsession, the strange obsession with the devil and with Christians too is interesting to me, because while it's important, it's not like the crux, or like it's not like he has like a ton of power over Christ.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of,
Yeah. No.
I don't know if that makes sense. I don't want to underplay it, but it's like I definitely feel like it gets overplayed a lot where people kind of forget that, you know.
Yeah. I'm doing another mini comic, which this was gonna be a strip. It's an idea I had like a while back. I can just do it as a mini comic, but it's called Stinking Devil, and it's the premise where you're blaming all your problems on the devil, and it's like the problems that I'm putting in here. It's like stuff that we do to ourselves, like I even have here like the devil, like he's just in the back on his phone. Uh, he's actually checking his Discord, the devil's Discord.
He's checking his Discord. But I mean, like that's the weird thing is like, so it's so cocky, I think personally, for like most Christians to be like the devil's been tempting me, because it's like no. Like one place, one time. You are saying right now you are the key element on the entire earth for him to focus on for his like plan. Like it, I'm just saying, like it might make more sense that he'd be like hanging out like next to like Biden or Trump or like some huge political figure, or like, you know what I mean? Like, why would the devil pick like one person? Like, for if I were to think that, right? Like, why would the devil like pick out like some dude in the Antelope Valley in California? You know, like, what? And if he's gonna pick somebody in California, shouldn't he be picking like the person at like Northrop Grumman who's working on like military plans, or you know what I mean? Like I'm just saying, like there's bigger players on the earth that he might potentially concern himself with.
Mm-hmm.
If he can be
Unless we can
one
become
place.
bigger players, and he senses that. But I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, but in that case, like even like just theologically, it should be more like demons instead of
Yeah,
the
I think
devil.
that might be what it is.
Yeah, yeah. I don't
It's
think it's gonna be
his
like
his
Satan
minions.
himself, when he's like he just takes a break from like doing the temptation of Christ for like 40 days, like an important figure like Christ, who's
Mhm.
like the crux of everything. Like he took a break during that 40 days of temptation to be like, hey buddy, hey, like to like a bunch of citizens in Israel at the time. Like no, like that's just not biblically backed at all. Like it, maybe it's demons or anything like that, but I'm just saying it's like the devil isn't going after a guy mopping the floor at Burger King. And like I'm just saying, like, just theologically, it's like even if you think it's like demons, like it's more like the devil's like this massive general of like an army. He's not everywhere at once. And that's, I think, really important
That's
for
why
people
he's
to.
checking his Discord. He's checking the sin charts.
I think that's
Mhm.
hilarious, and I really want to see that
Uh,
comic because
well,
that sounds awesome.
I have
But
the
yeah, it's weird when I hate when people pawn off on the devil like stuff that's the nature of human beings.
yeah, like I'll say a little bit, but there's like so I have a guy, and he's like this fat guy with a pizza, and he's like, oh, like stinking devil, he's been attacking me all
Ha!
day, and he's like, I was just diagnosed with diabetes as he's eating pizza. So I was like, so he's like he did it to himself. So
Yeah, which is how a lot of like at least theologically like how a lot of sin works, right? It's like a lot of it's our own doing.
yeah,
Even like I actually it's funny because that goes back to like the very early Bible, right? Where it's like, kind of like what hey, why'd you like eat that apple? And it's like, well, the devil made me do it. And it's like they made you? Like, can that happen? Like I kind of don't think it kind of seems like you did it. And then like, yeah, okay, like he's a dick for like tempting you, but like you did it. Like you
yeah.
can't shirk out of your responsibility for like making the yeah, that's a weird thing. Anyhow, I love this conversation, Frank. I appreciate you coming on, and it's fun to chat and talk shop and ramble. Um and I'm excited about that. That actually sounds pretty hilarious. Um and awesome. So it's gonna be a dude eating pizza being like, man, the devil just giving me diabetes. Like
Yeah, like I have three people. So it's like the devil. He's off like on the background doing. He's on his phone. So that's why I just had it in the cover. He's checking the devil's Discord, and like checking the thin chart. So he's just like he's working on. He's doing stuff like, but it's like he's off on his own. And you just have these three guys come in and just complaining about that devil is like messing with them. And he's like, wait, what? Like, and
it's
it's
like
stuff that they did themselves. Like one of them is the guy eating pizza, and another guy is like, oh yeah, like I ran out of gas and I was late for work. Stinking devil, like, well, like you failed to fill up your gas tank. So, and the punch I have another guy, but I don't want to say it because it'll be the whole joke. But like, it's gonna be obvious that it's something that he did himself, and I'm gonna have the devil kind of like, wait, like that was you, like, like nothing. To,
well, I love it. All right. Well, so I actually finished. I finished my page. I
cool.
am stoked. So in typical fashion of these live streams, I kind of predicted that this would be like an hour, and it ended up being like 2. But 2 hours isn't too bad. So
Yeah.
I do think I'm going to call it. And then you were saying you were running out of batteries, so it kind of works out. Frank, before we go, like, why don't you let people know where they can get these Captain Courage comics?
Well, if you just send me a message on Instagram, say, hey, I want a Captain Courage comic. I want Captain Goggles and Masked Woman. I'll send you my PayPal. So you find my Instagram, Salazar Nation. So I'll send you my PayPal. Just put in like depending how many comics. If you want the Captain Courage comic, like $2, $2 per comic. Just tell me which ones you want. I'll send you my PayPal. You put in the amount, and I'll mail them out to you.
Cool.
So yeah.
All right, I love that. All right, as usual, I'm just promoting avoiding the devil when you're mopping the floor at Burger King, which is a good one, because he's definitely more interested in that than like talking to Kim Jong-un in North Korea and trying to tempt him. And at the same time, go pick up 2 Stories, book 1. It's my attempt at writing a graphic memoir about faith and mental illness. And then Gary, it was awesome having you on, and I hope you got some rad laundry and progress done. And if you guys are curious about Gary in the chats, check out Dinosaurs versus Mars Bots 1997. It's really good. And also the alternate cover. What's the special edition cover? The pulp cover of the first Dinosaurs versus Mars Bots, which you guys should buy so that the original 1997 can be yeah, it is the 1975 can be reprinted. Thank you. So that's my blown pitch for your stuff, Gary. But both books are good. They're really well written. They're like a cross between Pulp Fiction and like a very cheesy B movie. And they're just excellent reads. I've enjoyed both. And Gary's a good dude. And then Corey Kerr, who showed up, check out his animations and stuff on Corey Kerr on Instagram and so on. And I will see you guys on the next live stream. And if you're curious about what I drew tonight, the thumbnail, which by the way gets us a little closer. I think like at this point I can kind of say like that's about a page left of script, right? Like just that. So I think I got about a page left till I'm done, which is pretty exciting. But if you want to see that, check my stuff out on Instagram as well. And have a good night. Bye.
Bye.